inclination, and bar thickness. Okay. So that was everything that we covered yesterday. Any questions? It's a lot, yeah, but don't worry. It's all organized and ready to go. Okay, what we did not cover yet from yesterday were the surveys for Deadwood and Roatan. So we're going to do that later today. And let me go back to the presentation. Okay, so that's what we have for field sheets, yeah? I hope everyone remembers some of those pieces. I'm still going to highlight some of the important parts in this recap, so don't worry, we have time. Okay. Now, remember that we have these plot maps. We're super lucky, yeah? We're doing a remeasurement campaign. That means we know all the species that were measured before. We know where they were. We know how big they were, right? We know the diameter, we know the height of all of those. And we can use that when navigating to and identifying the plots. Okay, so we have Trimble and we have a GPS. And in all of these devices, we already have all of the plots loaded into them. Yeah, so here you can see again, looks pretty familiar to the map that we already saw, right? So here's the first plot, S1450. Here are plot group B, yeah, around Beloa. Here are the plots near Kulawi. So these devices already have it all loaded into it, ready to go. Okay, so we're going to use these devices to navigate to the plots. On our way, some point, hopefully, we look around and we can start to find some tree tags on some of the trees. So the first tree tag that we find, let's say, okay, we are going to plot S0850. And I'm hiking and I'm hiking and I'm hiking. Boom, I see a tree tag. And it happens to be R2348. Great, cool. I found a tree tag. I look on my plot map. And I say, okay, where in the world is, found it. Tree R2348 is in a subplot D1. And we can even see how far it is from the tree corner, yeah? From the corner of that plot. Remember, we also have the species code. So we can do a double check, yeah? So we found this tree tag, right? We say, okay, we found R2348. On this sheet, we can say, okay, that is CASTBURU. So we can check here and say, okay, is that actually this species of this tree? Okay, from there, we can identify the plot corner. We set the plot center using the colorful rope. Yeah. Set the corners with PVC pipe, and then we're ready to go. Subplot by subplot, one at a time. Okay. Any questions? So, we got a lot of sheets of paper, but yeah, it all work, yeah? Yeah.
Guys, how many days we need to put the plot?
To set the plot.
Just to put the plot, and after that, we go back to the camp or we stay plot to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think in the beginning, it's going to take a little bit more time for us to set the plot, right? I think this is all something that as we go, the teams are going to get faster. Yeah, we're going to know the drill, we're going to know how it works. But remember, that's why we have the training plot. So let me go quickly to this one. Yeah, if we look back at the plan, this first plot, S1450, that's when we get to learn and test out all this stuff and figure out how long it's going to take. My estimate is that each plot is going to take a week. Yeah, I think we can be faster. I think especially by the end, we're going to get faster. But in the beginning, we have time. Yeah, it's more important to do it correctly. Yeah, so we're giving ourselves with one big team a whole week to do the whole process. Yeah, So I think we might even spend half a day just getting to the plot, setting the corners, establishing what's the subplot, what's the 5x5. Yeah, I'm gonna say half a day for that. So if it's only half a day and we already set it up, we can get a start on plot A1. Let's say it takes longer, yeah? Let's say that this plot is really difficult to set up. We, some of the tags were missing and we just needed more time. Let's say it takes the whole day. That means the next day, go to sleep, start fresh, do plot A1 in the beginning. Yeah. So it's all a matter of being flexible, just like the training is. So thank you all for your flexibility already. But yeah, we're gonna do it like that. So this plan is basically set up that each plot gets a week. Yes, yep, that includes everything. That includes setting it up, that includes the tree survey, rock tent survey, the survey.
Harus didata semua, tadi kan kayu, kemudian
Thank you so much for the question. Yeah.
There's trees.
Yes,
If in the field, we can gather the tags.
the tags.
Yeah, the tags.
So if the tags, it is a tree that was measured before, but we don't have the tag.
No, I mean, if in the field, we can gather the tags. The tags.
We don't see any.
Yeah, we don't, yeah.
We don't see any. Yeah, that's a really good point. I think it's very unlikely that we will not see any tree tags. Yeah, so if we remember, I mean, these plots are 40 by 60, right? So it's really big. And in each plot, we have, if you remember back to the overview, some of these plots have nearly 400 trees that we need to measure. So I think the likelihood that all 400 tags are missing is it's impossible, yeah, yeah. And it's a big enough area that I think we should be able to, yeah, to find it. And even let's say half of these tags are missing. This information right here, these 2 sheets of paper, they're gold, yeah? So if half of these trees are missing, we still know the location of every tree, even if the tag is missing, right? We can put our heads together, okay? Let's take this example. This plot C1 of 0850, it only has 2 trees, yeah? 2 very large trees, but it only has 2 trees. So let's say that both of the tags are missing. But we know that we are in this location in plot S0850, and we see 2 large trees. We know that trees cannot get so big in 12 years. Yeah, it's very unlikely that there, we have a 1 meter, with diameter tree that just popped up out of nowhere in 12 years, right? So we can say, okay, there is 1 tree at 28.2, and it's a large old tree. And look at that, it also is this species. We know it has to be this tree from before. And that's why on this STEM paper, we have so much information about the tags. Because in that case, even though the old tag is not there, we have to write it down. We have to say, okay, we know that this tree was R2345. We know that, so we write that's the old tag, but the tag's not there. So we install a new one, and then in tree tag now, we write R4000. So like that. Does that answer the question?
Sure.
And in the very unlikely case that we can't find it at all, I think that we can troubleshoot in the field, yeah? We will be enough people, let's say that we are 11, remember, the teams are 11 people, yeah? So we're 11 people in this area. Okay, then we all, let's say, man, we cannot find any tree tags that are supposed to belong to S1900. Okay, then you know what, that morning, all teams, even the second team, all people, go to the area that the GPS takes us of S1900. We spread out in small groups until we find tree tags. Yeah, like that. I think we're gonna find that. Yeah. Yeah. I think that it's gonna work. Yeah. But of course, with everything, we'll be flexible and we'll trust ourselves to make the right choices, the right decisions. Yeah. Okay. Thank you all for the questions. This is really nice. All right. We already talked about the tree tags versus stem tags and old tags versus new tags. But I want to give a quick recap, yeah? So, does anybody feel confident enough to describe the difference between the tree tags and the stem tags? Or should I give a recap? Okay, let me give a recap. So, if we remember on this field sheet, we have these things called stem tags and tree tags. Okay, so from my understanding and from looking at the data of Fabian and from speaking with Fabian, my understanding is that many trees in Laura Lindu National Park have multiple stems. Yeah, so many of them, it's going to be one main stem with a few of the same tree, and not a different tree, it's the same tree that has multiple stems. So, right, the standard tree has one stem, right? It is one tree, is one stem. So for most of our trees, the stem tag and the tree tag are the same. For the vast majority, they are the same, right? One tree, one stem, it's equivalent. When we see something like this in the field, nobody should panic because we have a plan, yeah? So when we see a tree like this that has 3 stems, but it's the same tree, the tag of the largest stem is the tree tag. Does that make sense? Yeah? So if it is one major stem with a bunch of little ones, that main stem is the tree tag. Yeah. And this is really important when we do things like try to assess the number of trees in a certain area, yeah? Because it's one tree with multiple stems. If we only took stem tags, then we're gonna overestimate the number of species, the number of trees of individuals in that area, yeah? So it might seem a little bit confusing, but it's actually really important. Yeah. Okay. So when we see a tree like this, that is one tree but 3 stems, this main stem gets the tag 0, 1, 2, 1. The other stems get this tag as a tree tag, but they have their own stem tag. Any questions on that? It's a little bit complicated when we remember that there are old stems, old tags, no, not old stems, old tags. But again, we have it all here laid out. And I think this is one of the things that in the field is going to make more sense. In the field, when we really see a tree and we see, okay, here's an old stem tag, but actually it's broken in half, or we can only read a little bit, it's going to make more sense. All right. Then we have these species codes, again, just to give a quick recap for that. The codes have 4 letters that come from the genus, underscore 4 letters that come from the species. So, I think this is quite clear, yeah? So that's how we generated the codes. If you do not know the tree, right? If before, we don't know what it is. We give it the code unknown. Even if, let's say, we find a species, it's a new species, we don't have a code for it yet. Pick unknown, unknown, and in the comments, write down what the species identification is. Okay. Great. All right, this is the last slide of the recap. If you remember, the end of the day yesterday, we worked on all of the tape measurement devices, yeah? There was one very important tip that we learned yesterday related to tree heights, yeah? Who can remind me what was that tip? When we are taking a tree height measurement, where do we point the device? You can answer that for me. I'll ask the question one more time. When we use these devices to measure tree height, and we're looking at the crown, and we have to take that top measurement on the top, yeah? Where do we aim the device?
Just try
Yeah.
middle, right, the step.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, Iqbal. That was exactly right. So we have to strike exactly where the tree height is above the stem. Yeah, directly above the stem, where is the maximum height? So when we look at devices, you're not aiming here. You're not aiming at the branches on the outer side, because that's going to give you an overestimation of the tree height. Yeah, be really, really careful with that. Yeah, the trend or the trend is to overestimate tree heights. You really don't want that. So really remember this tip. Yeah. So, all right. That is everything that I have for the recap of what we learned yesterday. Any questions? Okay. Great. All right. I would like for us to go outside and to practice the Nikon and the true pulse. Yeah. So I think from yesterday, we have a really good understanding of the vertex. It's this one.
Yeah.
And the hag block, which is this one. Yes, exactly. So remember, when we use the vertex, you have to place the transponder where? What height do we place the transponder? 1.3, exactly. What else do we have to do before we use the vertex every day? Calibrate. Exactly, calibrate. Where do we calibrate from? The back of the device or the front of the device? Front, exactly. What distance do we use for calibration? 10 meters, yes. Great. How many times when we measure height with a vertex, how many times do we shoot?
At least 8 times a day.
Yes. Yeah, calibration. Yes, calibrate at least 2 times a day. And how many times when this is on a tree and we take a height measurement, where do we shoot? And how many times?
Three times.
2 times. Yes. So with the ones we're going to practice now, 3 times with the vertex, 2 times. 1 time at the device, remember the device at 1.3, 1 time there, 1 time in the crown. Yes, only 2 times. For the vertex, 2 times. Also with this one, 2 or 3. Yeah, so there are 2 modes with this one. Yesterday we practiced when you measure the distance of the tree to your eye. When you measure the distance of the tree to your eye, all you do is shoot at the bottom and the top. Yeah. Okay. So I think we have a good grasp on these. Now, how about these guys? When we use the Nikon and the true pulse, how many times do we shoot the tree? 3. Yes. 3 times. Yes. Great job. With the Nikon, what is something to keep in mind? Hint is minimum. Minimum. Yes, so there's a minimum distance that you have to be from the tree to use the Nikon without an error. Yeah, we learned this yesterday. Yeah, so we were too close. And then it wasn't working. We were in super weird numbers. Yeah. So for this, be at least 10 meters, I think 15 meters away is better. For the true pulse, how about that? Did we get some error messages yesterday? Yeah. Yeah. So for these, be further away. They can read so far. These can read almost, I don't know, kilometer away, something like that, yeah, these can go crazy far, so. Yeah. Who wants to start and lead it out? Well, okay, how about we drink our coffee first, yeah?
Yeah.
You wanna drink your coffee first?
Yes.
All right, let me look at the time. Yeah. Enjoy coffee, we'll go outside in about 10 minutes. Okay. Yeah. It's the same Zoom link, it's just Hello to everybody joining online. I am sharing my screen. I hope that you were able to understand a little bit of the first session. Although I was not sharing my screen, sorry for that. I'll give a quick overview. I was just recapping what we covered yesterday, which was the overview, field sheets, navigating to plots, tree survey, and height measurements. Giving a quick overview of what we're expected to cover today. So recap, econ and true false, GPS habitat. We have a session from Bob and Roland on the major tree families in the national park and their characteristics. We will explain the Rochester and Deadwood variables at lunch, and then the whole afternoon session is for collectible file for Roland. Here are some of the recap points that we covered. And I will leave on this. So enjoy your break.
I have
We're not leaving anyone in the forest. Everyone wants to come back.
Ada. Kemarin masih di atas. 50 besar ini Pak. Cerita siapa?
Alright, who wants to go outside?
Okay, let's go.
Something. Okay. And what? Mr. I think one important thing, I guess before we go, one thing to remember with these, make sure that you're on the right mode. That's a really big deal.
Trupulse. Apa? Trupulse.
For this one, it's
Bukan.
yeah.
Yang satunya Nikon, yang itu Trupulse. Nikon and Trupulse.
So keep in mind, make sure you're on the right mode. For true
Iya.
these buttons to change the mode. For Nikon, the mode button is up here, yeah? So make sure HGT, right? 3 points. First point at stem, then base, then top, or top and base. All right, let's do it. Ayo.
Let's go. Let's go.
Oke.
Iya, Pi, juga latihan gue juga. Gue jadi asisten nanti. Asisten tapi kan bisa jangan dia jadi asisten mah.
Terus bulan Juli dia orang. Jadi kenapa pertanyaan nanti itu terusnya.
Asisten terlama.
Kaget harus menteri kehutanan saya.
Bisa tapi karena kayaknya boleh dilakukan.
Mana ini?
Kewenangan.
Ya, latihan
Oke,
lagi.
Bapak Ibu sekalian, untuk saat ini kami di ruang Zoom meeting akan keluar pelatihan untuk penggunaan alat-alat di lapangan. Jadi bagi Bapak Ibu yang berada di Zoom meeting, silakan untuk menunggu sejenak karena kalau kami di offline akan melakukan praktek penggunaan alat. Terima kasih Bapak Ibu atas waktu dan kesempatannya untuk menunggu, dan kita akan menyambung kembali setelah praktek lapangan dilakukan. Bila itu Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.